Welcome to Chapter 1, Essence of Psychology. You can reach the instructor via the provided email, Telegram, or YouTube links. This chapter will cover the meaning and goals of psychology, its historical roots and modern perspectives, subfields, and research methods. Let's start with the meaning of psychology. The word comes from the Greek roots psyche, meaning mind or soul, and logia, meaning study or science. Historically, psychology was defined as the science of the soul, the study of the mind, or the science of consciousness. These definitions failed because the nature of the soul could not be clearly defined, and the concepts of mind and consciousness were considered too narrow and lacked clarity. The modern definition of psychology is the science of human and animal behavior and mental processes. This definition has three basic elements. It is a science, it deals with behavior, and it studies mental processes. Psychology is a science because it systematically observes and records behavior, uses scientific methods to test assumptions, and employs precise instruments to study human behavior, reducing potential biases. Psychology is the science of behavior and mental processes. Behavior is any observable and recordable action, while mental processes are internal experiences like sensations, dreams, thoughts, and feelings. Examples of behavior include speaking or eating. Mental processes are all forms of mental activity related to cognition, such as thinking and remembering. Psychologists study animal behavior due to the similarities between animals and humans, fewer ethical considerations, and practical factors like lower cost for studies. To summarize, we have discussed the term, old definitions, reasons for their rejection, the modern definition, key terms, why it's considered a science, and why animals are studied. The four main goals of psychology are description, explanation, prediction, and control. Description involves observing what is happening. Explanation addresses why the behavior occurs. Prediction is speculating on future behavior, and control is finding ways to change or modify it. The text on this slide contains a placeholder. Please move to the next slide for content. If we understand a behavior's cause, we can predict future occurrences and intervene to change negative patterns. This example demonstrates the goals of explanation, prediction, and control. In summary, we reviewed the goals of psychology: description, explanation, prediction, and control. Now let's look at the historical roots of psychology. Consider when psychology emerged as a science and what schools of thought are involved. Historically, early practices like trephination date back to 5000 BCE. Psychology was part of philosophy until its formal scientific beginning in the late 19th century. Wilhelm Wundt established the first laboratory in Germany in 1879. When psychology emerged, different schools of thought debated what psychology should study, how it should be studied, and what causes behavior. Structuralism, led by Wundt, aimed for the scientific analysis of conscious experience by breaking it down into components, using introspection. It was criticized for subjectivity and limiting the topic of study. Functionalism, championed by William James, emphasized the adaptive function and purpose of the mind and behavior in a changing environment, rather than focusing on its structure. Behaviorism focused only on observable behavior, explaining it objectively and scientifically. It stressed the environment's role in shaping behavior, looking for connections between actions and environmental stimuli. Gestalt psychology, founded by Max Wertheimer, emphasized that we perceive the world as an organized pattern, or a whole, not just individual sensations. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Psychoanalysis, developed by Sigmund Freud, focused on powerful inner forces, mostly buried in the unconscious mind. He proposed that drives and urges hidden from awareness seek expression in conscious thought and behavior. To recap, we have covered the historical roots and the early schools of psychology: structuralism, functionalism, behaviorism, gestalt, and psychoanalysis. Modern perspectives include physiological, focusing on genetics and body function; psychodynamic, on unconscious processes; behavioral, on environmental influence; and cognitive, on thinking. Other modern perspectives are humanistic, which emphasizes free will, and sociocultural, which examines social and cultural forces. Applied psychology includes several subfields: clinical, counseling, educational and school, industrial and organizational, and developmental psychology. Many psychologists work in both research and application. In summary, we've covered the modern perspectives: physiological, psychodynamic, behavioral, cognitive, humanistic, and sociocultural, along with the various subfields of psychology. Next, we will explore research methods in psychology. We'll discuss what research is, the methods used, the difference between correlation and experiment, and key concepts like control and experimental groups and variables. Research is a systematic approach to obtaining and confirming new, reliable knowledge. The word itself implies repeating a search because earlier efforts may not have been exhaustive. Research is defined as a careful investigation or a systematized effort to gain new knowledge, often through searching for new facts in any field of knowledge. Systematic research involves three basic operations: data collection, which is observing and recording information, data analysis, or organizing the collected data, and report writing to convey findings. The scientific method is a system for gathering data that reduces bias and error. Key concepts are theory, an integrated set of principles used to make predictions, and hypothesis, a testable prediction from a theory. The steps in the scientific method are problem identification, hypothesis formulation, hypothesis testing through empirical research, drawing conclusions, and report writing or publication. Various research methods are used based on their appropriateness to the problem, including naturalistic observation, survey, case study, correlational, and experimental methods. Naturalistic observation involves observing behavior in the actual field without interference, such as studying aggressive tendencies in monkeys. Its main advantage is a realistic picture of behavior. Disadvantages of naturalistic observation include the observer effect, where subjects behave differently when watched, and observer bias, where observers see what they expect. Participant observation and blind observers help mitigate these issues. Laboratory observation involves watching behavior in a controlled lab setting. Advantages include environmental control and use of specialized equipment, but a disadvantage is that the artificial situation may result in artificial behavior. The survey method uses a series of questions given to a representative sample of subjects from a larger population. This allows for data collection from many people and the study of covert behaviors. For a survey, researchers select a representative sample from a population to make inferences about the entire group. The case study method involves an in-depth analysis of a single person or event, offering a tremendous amount of detail and providing direction for further study. However, the findings cannot be generalized to others. To summarize, we've reviewed the definition of research, the scientific method, and research methods including naturalistic observation, laboratory observation, survey, and case study. The correlational method determines the relationship between two variables. Correlation can be positive, where variables change in the same direction, or negative, where they change in opposite directions. It is important to remember that correlation does not mean causation. Just because two variables are related does not mean one causes the other. A third, unmeasured variable might be involved.